Welcome back to That's Delivered. I'm your host, Trucking Ray, and we have another great episode again as part of our episode with DAT series. Today, I'm joined by someone who brings special information that's boots on the ground perspective on how fleets are actually moving right now. Robert Rouse is our guest. I'm happy to have him on the show. And before we get into the technology side of things, I want listeners to understand um, possibly what's going on out there in the trucking world and help them understand how to look at the data that's available to them a little better. Robert, glad to have you on the show. So happy to have you here. I mean, you guys are doing great things over at DAT. So thank you so much for coming on today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited about this opportunity to talk about all the cool stuff we're doing.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, you guys look at a lot of information. We'll start with what originally pulled you into the transportation industry. We're trying to get your background about what you do professionally there.
Yeah, absolutely. I've kind of a really interesting, funny story and kind of how I got into trucking industry is kind of weird. So ended up weirdly started to sell insurance. It was kind of how I started and had a couple of companies, trucking companies that I had bought a book of business for. And had understood how trucking insurance worked at a pretty deep level. Did that for a very short period of time because I really hated selling insurance. It's the worst thing to ever do because nobody wants insurance unless something bad happens. But that led to the opportunity at DAT where essentially what happened I met somebody locally that was like, "Hey, we're looking for somebody to come help and help understand trucking certificates of insurance, what they are, how they work." And I said, "Well, I don't love doing the sales job, so I'll come join DAT." And it was, one of the entry level positions at DAT is working with our Carrier Watch division, and really helping read certificates of insurance and all that. And then essentially from there, I ran our enterprise support department for a number of years, where I worked with all the large brokers, and helped them understand how to use DAT tools and services, and then earned my CTB, the Certified Transportation Broker license, through that process as well, just because I wanted to understand the industry a little bit better.
Hmm.
But through working with our customers, I found kind of a passion for product development, right? Wanted to really be somebody that was in the driver's seat of helping solve those solutions. One of the things throughout my whole career, I've always gotten bored of jobs, right? I've always got really like, this is boring. Like, if we've solved the problem, cool, let's move on. But in product management, the awesome thing that I get to do on a daily basis is talk to truck drivers and hear exactly what they're experiencing, and then have to go through that because like they're telling me this, but really I think this is the problem, and can I go fix that? And so that's really the fun part at DAT that I've been here for just over 12 years, and it continues every day. We get to solve new cool problems, which is a lot of fun.
Nice. I think that's great. I mean, that's huge for um, helping your background. I mean, putting that all together. I mean, you got it looks like CSM, CTB
Yep.
credentials. Tell me a little bit about those, so people that not familiar with that.
Yeah, so the CSM is a certified Scrum Master, so it's a part of any tech organization. Essentially, it's project management and really making sure teams work together and understanding how to deliver technology in a fast and efficient way. And so, got that certification, really to help understand how to go from helping customer support and then moving into a technical space because I don't have a technical background. So, I'm somebody that comes from the business world. I come from helping directly with customers. And so then we're moving into a role to work directly with engineers on a daily basis. It's kind of sometimes a culture shock. Engineers talk in a different language. The way they operate is different. And so I really, I've always leaned into learning to help, understand how to move there. So that's the CSM part. I also have a CTB, which is from the TIA, which is the Certified Transportation Broker, and that's really, when I was at DAT, I didn't have like a brokerage background or a carrier background, so I really like understood what what customers were talking about, but I wasn't always using the right words, right? So I'd go to a brokerage or go to a carrier and talk with them about how they can utilize DAT products to better their business. And I'd say it in a way that made sense in my head, but didn't always connect with the actual people that were listening. And so what I went through the CTB process, really what that led me to understand is, okay, well, what words are brokers or carriers using in these, like what's a bill of lading, what is a proof of delivery, and all those things. And so, understanding those context information allows me to communicate a lot better with customers now, because I can actually speak their language and understand exactly how they're talking.
Nice. All right, man. That does make a big difference. So just kind of follow up a little bit better, also about DAT. What's changed most in the way loads are booked since you first started to now?
Yeah, it's an ever evolving process, right? When you go way back in time, people were doing it when DAT first started. People were doing it on payphones, right? They were in the truck stop calling. They'd get a note card, pull it off a bulletin board in the truck stop, call. Then it evolved into faxing and satellites and all those kind of things. And so what I've seen in the last 6 or 7 years is technology has allowed for a lot of companies to really invest in new interesting ways in how they book freight. And so that's really what has changed is that instead of having to make a bunch of communication steps, there are ways now to book freight much faster.
Mm,
The thing that I think is holding everything back is just the flow of data, right? So that's something that we're working hard on DAT is making sure that the data flows through, and make sure that the carrier has all the data that they need to make the decision. So big thing that we did in the last year is we went out and acquired Convoy platform,
mm,
because that's a huge piece that Convoy platform has is they have the ability when you're on the Convoy platform and you're a vetted carrier, right? So there's a large amount of steps that you have to go through to be a vetted carrier on the Convoy platform. But once you're there, there's a lot more information and details about the loads you can make very quick decisions, and go through a completely automated booking process, which is pretty amazing.
nice. So where did that come from? The Convoy platform integration. What made them pick that one?
I think as we looked throughout the entire industry, we looked at what do we think would be the best to help bolt on to DAT to make us stronger. So in the last year, we look at trucker tools, right? It's known as an industry leader in tracking, and so we wanted to bring them on board. And then with Convoy, we were able to go and evaluate that, look under the hood, and look at the technology that's there,
Mm,
and we're blown away and go, oh yeah, this is a no brainer that DAT, that's going to help make DAT a stronger business in general. But it's also really beneficial to our customers, and that's really the important part when we're looking at things like that is understanding how it's going to help us be better and drive inefficiencies out of the marketplace.
Well, I mean, I think you guys are doing a great job with that. I mean, what are you guys seeing that doesn't work anymore based off your background? I know you got the credentials, you got a lot of exposure, even culture shocks. You're able to master that as well. Put it all together, just kind of get to know you and what really helps keep you grounded. What do you think is one thing that doesn't work anymore?
In the industry, I think there's a lot of different pieces that are somewhat broken, but ultimately, I think what is definitely going in the past is just like with fraud that's out there. Um, there's this new trusted network, and I think that growth has really driven DAT to change and everybody to change. So the times where less vetting happen is probably in the past at this point. So I think that's one area that we've seen, but I think ultimately that's making the industry a lot stronger. I think all of the vetting is actually not a bad thing, right? Because it really helps drive home. You need to have great relationships, right? So all of those things are just making the industry try to be even more connected. So that way good players are really connected together, and can make sure that those transactions happen with trusted partners on both sides.
That's beautifully said. I couldn't say it better myself. People say, why is it so hard to get this load move or what have you? And that trust that's out there that has to be put together. You can't do that overnight. And when you're able to see who you're dealing with and hear them on a frequent basis, and also saying like introducing yourself and telling people about yourself, that's something that no one can just duplicate. So yeah, great
Yeah.
job.
Well, and I
Um,
think the other thing, just to touch on that briefly, because I think there's a really interesting conversation that's going on in the industry about, well, what is AI going to do with the trucking industry? How is it going to impact us, and how is it going to change? And one of the things that I've learned, and we're deeply connected with how we could use AI technologies at DAT, to improve the business, right, and improve customers' experience. But I think from a carrier's perspective, you're hearing all these conversations about like, oh, look at these AI dialers and all these calls that are being made. But I think that if you take a step back and go, hey, what if every business was able to reduce some of the really mundane tasks that they do on a daily basis? Well, what if you took that down by 50%, right? Well, what if you just on the other side use that 50% to then invest in your relationships, right? So making those phone calls to like, oh, hey, Ray, I know it's your birthday. I just want to check and see how you're doing. Or hey man, I heard your kid was doing really awesome. Like, how's that? How connecting in those relationships. So instead of doing mundane tasks, you're re-shifting your focus to build stronger relationships. So I think
mhm,
that's really where we're going to see the industry change, is that you're going to see like a lot of the tasks that were took up a lot of time, we're not really driving the business forward, will go away, and AI will take over a lot of those things, or some sort of helper, and then you will reinvest time in areas of creating relationships, and building those things. And I think that's really where, I think if we have a crystal ball, which I hope I have that crystal ball right now, I think in the next 5 years, that's where we're going to be at.
nice. I, I I can resonate. I can tell that that makes sense. Because when you're saying that, it makes me think about when I was able to buy and sell my house. You think, man, all this technology coming out, why do you need a realtor? But they haven't got rid of realtors. And
Right.
actually, that connection that you have with the realtor helps you feel comfortable about the amount of purchase that you're willing to buy or sell. And it seems like they're able to answer your questions a lot faster and help you feel at ease. Um, Makes their job better. Maybe they can handle more than one client at a time.
Yeah.
So I'm even thinking about that. I'm just like, man, that reminds me of my recent deal with selling my house. And then, that's not even as expensive as a lot of these transactions that are going on these load boards. I mean, they're dealing with millions on these loads from these big businesses and stuff. So you want people to feel comfortable, have someone to talk to, and then you want that person that's able to handle those transactions, be able to answer those questions. Instead of saying, I don't know. So I like that. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How has load booking changed? Maybe it's something you've seen. Let's talk about that. I mean, from your vantage point, how has load booking changed in the last few years? Is it faster, more automated, more competitive, or is it just more confusing? Uh,
It's definitely, I think it's one of those things that it's gotten better, but it's still got a long ways to go, right?
mm,
So one of the things that is really crucial, is that you really need to understand what you need to get out of everything to be able to book a load really quickly. And I think there are a lot of companies that think like, oh, we can just automate this overnight.
mm,
It's not that simple, right? Like, there's freight is complicated, right? The reason why there's a lot of companies that have come and tried to really do different things in the industry. But freight's complicated unless you have a really deep understanding of how freight moves. It's really hard to deliver that. And I think the Convoy platform, one of the reasons why we added them to the DAT network, is because they had like the knowledge and the ability to really deliver on how freight moves and how freight flows and what data needs to come along in each step. That's huge, right? And
Mhm.
that's something that you're going to see some of those influences creep into all of the DAT family of products as well, because that's it's pretty brilliant the flow that they have. And ultimately they have a really good success of loads that are posted on the Convoy platform, are getting booked seamlessly without a lot of interaction. But that's
Mhm.
because there's that trust there built in every step, and those relationships come back into play, because it's like, hey, I know Ray, he's going through the process, I've already worked with Ray 10 times, so I can trust Ray that he, when I get a bid from Ray, I'm going to accept that because he's already gone through the process. We can trust him. We know exactly what he's going to deliver for us. And so I think that's really what has changed. And I think that's one of the reasons why, DAT is continuing to grow in those areas.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it can't be underestimated. When you say you're gonna do something, you gotta be able to deliver it, you gotta be able to just do it, you know? They don't want someone that's saying a whole bunch of stuff and then they can't get it done. So you gotta be real careful with the AI saying that it can do everything, and then reality is different, and people won't continue to trust that. You know, they'll have trouble with that. It's going to cause difficulty. What would you say on that?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's the big thing is that even though there's going to be AI that's going to be help automating both sides, right? All those mundane tasks. At the end of the day, you still have to have a plan for how you're going to handle it, right? So one of the things that I've talked to carriers for years about is, you know, everybody has a great plan until they're punched in the mouth, right? And so the carriers that
Nice.
that that brokers and shippers, really appreciate about carriers is like when a carrier is like, hey, even if you're off track, let's say you have a blown tire or something like that, when you call them and say, hey, I understand this is my setback, but here's the plan of action of how I'm going to go achieve this, right? Having that plan and being able to adapt, those are the carriers that I see are really successful in this world. Even though there's a lot of AI that's like trying to automate those things, it's the carriers that are like very forthcoming and like, oh nope, I understand that this happened. Here's how I'm going to go solve that problem for you. And I think that's really where the carriers, even in the kind of freight recession that we've had, those are the carriers that are success are seeing the most success, is the ones that are able to really adapt and have a plan for anything that happens for them.
Yeah. I mean, even something simple like phone calls. What if the system goes down? Can you still answer the phone calls? Have you seen a shift in relationships towards digital booking platforms? What would you say on those?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody there's the thing is there's so many digital booking platforms that are out there, right?
Mhm.
So I think everybody's still trying. Like, there's not somebody that's a clear leader. I think Convoy has a really strong presence in that space as a digital booking. We're like complete freight automation platform.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of solutions out there, right? But I don't think there's been one solution that's like really completely automated everything. And so I think that's really where there's some cool things we're working on at DAT with the Convoy platform that will continue to help drive that space forward.
Nice. Are you seeing a hybrid model merge maybe where you see maybe that the shift from the phone calls or the TMS board, maybe there's going to be like some hybrid merger that's up and coming maybe?
One of the things that we're seeing is communication is happening at lightning speed, even faster than it did in the past. And so there are like a bunch of TMSs for carriers that are really cool that bring in all of your emails. So as soon as somebody emails, it's almost like you're chatbotting, even though it's all through email. So there's a lot of cool new technologies that are going to continue to make the space even faster at negotiations and faster at communication. And so I think that's really one area that voices, like just a phone call, is not always going to be exactly how it's going to be, because there's a lot of these technology companies that are building that type of conversational pieces into their business. And then even with the voice, a lot of the brokers now have where it's automated screening. So it's gonna, as soon
Mhm.
as you call it, you put in your MC number and it's going to basically say, oh, nope, can't work with you, or no, we can. And I think some DATs already added some features to help carriers understand, like, hey, here's the requirements that that broker has. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's going to be continually, creating that trust platform. I think is really where everybody's trying to move to.
Nice. All right. So tech integration, I mean, that's huge. Do you think we ever get to a point where we'll be saturated with technology? How do you feel about where we're headed with that?
Ultimately, I think if you look at the way the tech industry is changing, it is constantly evolving right now. Like, I'm in the tech space, right? And I'm constantly every morning, spending an hour to 2 hours just learning about new technology that came out like yesterday, right? So it's like it is evolving so fast, that it's really just hard to even keep up with what is going on. But I think, like, in the long term, that is really going to help the industry. I think the trucking industry for a long time, needed some of that technology, and so AI and all these different tools are going to help us deliver on a lot of these tools that are going to help with the inefficiencies in the marketplace. Because ultimately, like I said, and if it had a crystal ball, we go out 5 years. A lot of those mundane tasks that are like, man, why am I doing this? Like, this is not helping drive the business forward, right? A
Mhm.
lot of that stuff is going to be automated, right? So that way you can, the business folks can focus on, great, awesome, all those things are taken care of. I need to like check just to make sure and just like do overview of the AI, make sure it's doing the right things, and that will help refocus on, how do I, do actual business development? How do I go out and get more customers? And how do I, be able to say why my business is better than everybody else's, and drive there. And I think that's really where we're going to see that shift. And I think we're already there in a lot of spaces. Like, if you look at a lot of the large players in the marketplace, they're already adopting a lot of those so that they can reshift their work.
Nice. I think that's gonna be great too. I mean, man, you get up every day and you watch the news and you're like, man, what did I miss? There's always something happening. So I can only imagine in the tech world. I mean, like, wow, how do you keep up? And then, like you said, you're doing hours of research and trying to consume what the change is and what new things, so that you can stay abreast as to what's going on in the industry. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good thing. There is a lot of fear monger out there that people are going to be losing their jobs and nobody's going to be working. It's just, people keep the fear monger going so that you can keep doom scrolling.
I mean, if you look at every evolution, right, that is the constant fear, right? So if you go back to the Industrial Revolution, that was the fear, right? And so it's just a matter of, how do you shift that, right? How, like, the jobs that people were doing in the early 1900s, a lot of those jobs are now done by robots, right? So it's like, it's not that people don't have jobs, you just shift them to do other things.
Yeah, one of the biggest shifts in the industry has been the integration of tech, and like you say, you guys are doing great things over there with Convoy into a broader freight system. What has worked? Did anything just kind of, was there something that possibly was just didn't do so well, or maybe surprised you by that integration, or um, just some real operational lessons that we can take away?
Yeah, I think the biggest lessons that we can take away from the last couple of years is really just a constant change in the marketplace. Carriers are constantly changing how they're doing business, or like, especially with the freight recession, you have to figure out different ways to survive the ups and downs of that. And so I think what I've seen is more smaller carriers being open to technology. So if I go back, 5-10 years ago, right? Like, most carriers were open to most of the DAT options, but they were kind of skeptical about some of the things that were coming out, like tracking, right? Was a big thing. We're like, I really don't like tracking. But I think over time, I think that people are being more and more okay with the different technologies. Basically, like at DAT, we're even launching a search widget that people can add directly on their home screen of their phone, right? So that even that is like for some carriers is like completely mind blowing. Like, oh, I don't know if I want to utilize that new technology, but I think that we're seeing a lot of people just being like, oh man, if I don't change or if I don't continually adapt and find new tools to be better and compete, um, that's not great. So they're looking for new ways to find those tools to make them a little bit more efficient, a little bit better, because they think even just small changes can make a huge impact to their bottom line.
Absolutely. I mean, man, you're known for keeping things grounded over there. I mean, you think a lot of small carriers, they're actually what they're dealing with right now. When you talk to the carriers, what is some of their biggest frustrations? Is it rates, the speed of booking, payment terms, or what are they struggling the most? What would you say?
It's different for a bunch of different carriers, but I think like the biggest thing is what I've believe strongly is like most carriers, their biggest thing is they just want to be respected. Like
Mhm.
outside of technology, right? Like that's some of the stuff that can be solved, but some of the things that I've seen, one of the things I love to do is go on ride-alongs with drivers and spend a week on
Mm,
the road and really
really?
live the driver lifestyle, right? Um, and I think from those experiences, it's most of these drivers are away from their families for weeks and weeks at a time, and when a broker calls them or a broker is trying to, figure out how to get a problem solved, that
Mhm.
carrier is going to go above and beyond to try to get that problem solved for that broker, right? And I think the biggest thing for everybody to take away is like it just takes a little bit of respect for those drivers, and that goes a long way. And I think that's really, if I had a big magic wand of like, hey, everybody just like respect the drivers, like they are the ones that are putting in God's work to make sure that your freight's getting delivered. So next time you get on a call and you have a problem, be extra thankful. Just be like, "Hey, man, I really appreciate it." It's not just that that you're paying them to do a job. It's also that they're potentially doing more than you're actually paying them to do. They're doing this extra thing for you, and just showing a little bit of respect can go a long ways. And I think that's a huge thing that I would say is needed in the industry.
Nice. So tools, discipline, the competitive edge. If you're advising a small carrier today, or what tools are non-negotiable, would they just not give up on rate analytics, lane history, real-time demand indicators, or fuel costs tracking software? Uh, let's talk about that. About discipline. What would you say?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is use a operating cost calculator. DAT has one right in the DAT One mobile app. But I go talk to carriers all the time, and one of the things I hear all the time, and it still blows me away, is, "Hey, I need to make $5,000 to $6,000 a week." Right? That's what I need. Ultimately, that's great. Like if you're making that thing for small carriers, is really know your numbers, right? That's really the core piece, because ultimately a couple short haul lanes where you're actually putting less wear and tear in your truck, less fuel, all that is actually more profitable for you at the end of the day, and actually nets more take home than if you did a 3,000-mile haul from New York all the way over to California or something like that. So it's really knowing your numbers. What is your cost per mile? DAT can help you with that. It is fairly precise, right? It can really help you as long as you put in all of your costs, and put in your information in there. It's really just a tool to help you understand, right? And then, like you said, like there's the rate data that's really important, but rate data can only go as far as how well you can use that data, right? And I think for most small carriers, they'll look at it and be like, well, yeah, but that's not what I got last week or anything like that. The rate data is really supposed to be directional, right? So all of DAT's rate data is based on actual transactions that we got from brokers, carriers, and shippers in the marketplace, right? So they're sending us actual transactions that happened. And what we're doing is we're aggregating all that information and taking away the top 25% and the bottom 25% as outliers. And so when you see a range on DAT, that's the middle 50% of loads that are moved. And so understanding how to use that data is super crucial, right? So when you see a rate that maybe doesn't align closely with what you ran that lane for a couple of months ago, or maybe you ran it towards the top end of that,
Mm.
That's definitely possible. Each specific carrier has their own buying power, right? So on average, some carriers are really high towards the top because they're trusted because, $1,000 on one load. Well, if you need to reposition to another market, now you have some flexibility to do that and still come up well ahead by the end of the month. And I think using those data pieces are really crucial for small carriers to really operate at peak
Man,
efficiency.
that's awesome. I mean, that's something that they need. So just to kind of reiterate that again, so if they do this and they look at those numbers, it's going to help them be successful. Maybe you could help them. What's that that you said at the end one more time?
Oh, so basically, if they look at their operating costs, and look at the rates, and really take both of that information to understand, maybe the first load makes $1,000 more. Well, once they get to wherever they're going, well, now they're up $1,000, and they can figure out, okay, I can reposition over to this other market that I'm going to get paid a lot more, so I can take a little bit less. But then they can start to track, like, okay, overall throughout the month, am I above or below my operating cost, right? And how much? And so that's really where I've seen carriers operate at peak efficiency when they start to understand that correlation of, here's my operating cost, here's how much I'm making for all these, and start to track that. Some even do it with just a scratch pad next, in their dash. Just like start writing down, okay, I took this load plus 500, I took this load plus 3,000 or whatever, and they write that down, and by the end of the month they can really have a clear picture of how much they're up or how much they're down or where they need to go. And it just helps them be able to move and operate a little bit more efficiently than somebody that doesn't know their numbers as well, and just is trying to go for that $5,000 to $6,000 per week. Knowing your numbers really is the crucial piece. Like every successful carrier that I've talked to that's really come out of this freight recession in a stronger place, it really understands their numbers and how to manipulate them.
Nice, great advice. I love it. I mean, so in the next 5 years, what would you say that will brokers and carriers interact differently?
For sure. Like that's not even like, it's a given at this point that brokers and carriers are going to change exactly how they operate. With how fast technology is moving, it's inevitable that it's going to happen. But I think what changes is some of the booking process is probably going to be more automated, right? Where it's like super fast, super quick, but you still want to have, like, there'll still be those conversations where you're building those relationships. So instead of at a brokerage, somebody that is working on booking freight, if they're doing less of that, well, then they shift to start calling carriers to because every broker wants to rebook carriers as much as possible, right? Because it reduces the amount of effort on their side, right? So you can see brokers start to shift that mentality a little bit and be like, oh, I like working with Ray, I'm going to call him and just make sure, like, Ray's thinking about me for when he's looking to book his next load. And so like that's really where I think things will change, is that relationships are really going to be crucial in that world. Because if it's just everybody's an AI conversation, that takes a little bit away. But I don't think that's where we're going. I think we're going to take away just the mundane tasks and focus more on relationships.
Nice. So to personally close on a lot of this information that we're putting out here, I mean, this is great. From your perspective, what excites you the most about where freight is headed?
Yeah, I mean, I'm most excited about the fact that I think the industry is really starting to hit a turn. I think things are starting to change a little bit with where we're at. I think we went through a really hard couple of years, but I'm starting to see like that. It looks like potentially things are going to start coming back here in the next year or so. And I think the biggest thing that I'm excited for is just all the technology. DAT is doing a lot of really cool stuff that we'll be coming out with in the next couple of months. Um, you know, we, as DAT is growing, like we're bringing all these new companies in, and all these new people. So there's a lot of new cool stuff that is going to start to happen as we start to really deliver on some of the promises that we've been making out there in the industry.
Man, that gets me excited. That's awesome. Instead of the doom, doom and gloom. You got a great outlook on the future, and I think that's really great. Maybe is there any concerns that maybe we can knock those out as well? What would you say for um, maybe there's stuff you maybe want to draw attention to that could use some improvement?
I mean, I think that there's definitely a lot of things about data that every company that's out there, even small carriers, here's what is going to be important for you for the rest of the going into the AI world. And I implore all carriers to, even if you're a small carrier, one truck operation, all the way to hundreds of trucks operation, data is going to be the king for the future. And how you store your data and structure your data is super important, right? And so, realistically, even if you're a small carrier, your data is your data, and you need to have it in stored in a way that allows you to be able to utilize those tools, right? So, new AI tools or new things that are coming out is only going to be as good as your data is structured. And so, that's definitely something just to think about a little bit as you go through, because ultimately what I've seen a lot of people struggle with is, as they're trying to adopt new tools, such as AI tools that DAT is coming out with or other brands, is if the data is not in a really structured format, it's really hard for any AI tool to really go and grab that data and really understand how to apply it. So definitely think through that, how you can structure your data and store it, because even if you're a one truck operation, your data is still going to be super valuable to you. There's a lot of insights that you can glean off of. Well, what brokers am I, making more money with, and what brokers are I'm making less money with, and so that way you can focus on your relationships as well. But the only way to get really good data out of that and use those tools, is going to be to have your data in a way that is usable by those different tools. If it's just a bunch of random documents everywhere, it's going to be really hard to get really valuable information out of that.
Wow, I like that, man. I want to get organized right now. I had to say, I just got done looking at my taxes. I'm like, man, I want to. Wish there was AI that could just take care of that for me. On that particular thing that you brought up, how would someone get help with that? Maybe they're struggling with it. Hey, I need like someone needs their tax guy. Maybe someone needs their structure data person. How would someone stay organized?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of online resources. Like, you can literally go onto Google and make a search of how I structure my data, or how I want to save my data to be used by different tools. So there's a lot of different pretty cost effective tools that are out there. Don't want to shout out one specific brand, but there's a ton of them that are out there that will give you just a quick prompt of like, hey, I am in the trucking industry and I want to store my data in a way that is useful. How, what do you suggest? Those types of tools are out there that are pretty easy. You can always reach out to people at DAT, as well. Like, I'm sure a lot of us would be happy to talk to people, to our customers about, how we can help you with that as well. But yeah, like, I think there's some pretty easy tools that are just online, that you can search, and it'll give you a pretty basic information about that.
Nice. So get out there on the AI assistant, ask what can be done, and then there's all those tools that are available. Say, just keep typing in the prompt. Say, hey, I need more help, and get that AI to direct you into places that you can do for free. I know Google Sheets does a lot. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't want to pay for high end service. Google Sheets is free for the most part, as far as I can tell. and
But
and you guys do that. You do a great job when people ask you questions. You don't just brush them off. You take the time to and make them feel at ease. Say, hey, this is where you're at. This is what I would suggest. I'm not telling you what to do, but this is what we've seen from our customer base, and you guys do a nice job with that. Thank you.
appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's a principle at DAT that we don't just want to be just your software platform. We want to help grow with you, right? So as you grow your business, DAT is there throughout the entire growth. We're a partner to stand that growth. And that's why we've added companies like Alco and Trucker Tools and Convoy and all those, because we want to see that growth with you. And so that way we can help see somebody that starts out as an owner operator all the way until they have their 100 truck fleet someday.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, the relationships are going to be king. We keep saying it, keep drilling it in. Hopefully, people are getting it. Um, there is a lot of people just they're getting bombarded by data. They're bombarded by this, and makes people kind of withdraw. But unfortunately, that's going to be the thing that may slow them down. So just keep staying at it. Get out there. Stay positive. There's a lot of great things that can happen when you build these relationships with each other. So uh, don't be afraid. You may find out that. People may surprise you still. Yeah, so people have still got a lot of good things to offer nowadays. So we just got to keep our heads up. And there's a lot of great things I think we can do with DAT. And you're one of them. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you talking about this, keeping us grounded. The technology is exciting. It's going to make things easier. We just have to embrace it in a way that's going to be useful for our business. And don't get caught up in the doom and gloom, right? Yeah. So, but drivers want to know what actually really helps them, and I think you guys do that great job at that. DAT, like I said, you want them to be successful, even if they're small, because you know that also, well, hey, there's a long ways to go in trucking. You can keep going. So, yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we really appreciate you guys having this segment with us for April. And if you're enjoying this episode, you like what you see, you like what you hear, please leave a review. Stay tuned to what DAT has to offer. I hear there's a lot of great things coming down the pipe. So, I mean, man, you guys keep it going. You think you got all that you can take, but there's more to come. You're gonna have more success. So, yeah. So, another episode from Truck and Ray, and that's delivered. Stay safe out there.